Hello my dear friends, this is a PaintyKat and today we're going to paint a seascape with a small town. And first I want to demonstrate why I usually painting a first layer of white color. Because it's giving me ability to blend better. Look, on the left side I have no white layer, it's just a spots of colors and it's blending the really visible stripes. And if I have a thin, half wet layer of white, all colors blending better. Please leave at least 5 centimeters from the bottom. It's gonna be a sea area, and they all paper. Now I'm covering with a thin layer of white. The main brush I'm going to work with today, it's a flat brush, synthetic, and the colors I'm using you can check on the left side of video. I'm starting with cobalt blue and white and strokes. I'm painting at the moment, it's very short and let's say square shaped strokes. It's very important to keep painting this way because in the end it will give a really beautiful final look. It's similar, in my opinion, it's looking similar to mosaical arts, and also it's very close to palette knife works. It's possible to understand how palette knife painting, even if you want to keep working with the brushes and the flat brush, the best shape to work this way. Please don't mix too much colors on your palette because brush can have a different shades of blue same time on it, and you can see really visible shades in one stroke. It's actually close to one stroke technique when you painting with a really long brush, and usually it's flower petals creating this way. But if you will paint with a short and flat brush, it's still close to, but giving a different effect. I think it's close to mosaical view, right? Next color I'm going to use now, it's a metallic red. I already painted with a cobalt blue and ultramarine together plus white, and I want to create a glowing above the city. If you ever saw a city from far distance, especially big cities, smalls are just the same, it's actually a glowing around the city because cities have a night lights. And before we're going to paint buildings, we have to create this special, very shining, glowing above the cities. Very, very pretty looking. And next I'm moving to just a red color, but I'm mixing with a white sometimes because I want the red shade be gentle, very soft, because it's not a fire burning, right? It's just the evening lights, evening shine around the city. Some colors, some middle shades you can mix on palette, but again, don't mix it too well. And I'm using transparent palette. It's very handy. I can really recommend it to you. It's give you ability to see a color before you even put it on your paper or canvas. And next color I'm moving, it's ochre and it's very nice mixing with the red because it's giving a nice soft amber color. It's not even an orange, it's soft amber, I'd say. And the way I'm painting, still just the same mosaical flat strokes. It's square and short. And the last color I'm going to use for the sky, it's light yellow mixed with white, and I'm mixing all together now. Sky have to go under the city layer. If you can see now, I'm not planning any sketch before, only area I planned, it's a sea stripe, but no any sketches for building. It's actually because I want you to demonstrate how to use smart shapes of brushes we have. I'm pretty happy with the sky color now. I just want to be sure I went far enough under the future city, because after we will done the sky layer, we will not get back to it. Let's start with our city, small city, and I'm starting from the buildings that most far from us. It's on top of the hill, and the color I'm using, it's a Madder Lake red plus red mixed together, and the shape of your brush is most important here. It's just a flat brush, and we're painting with the vertical strokes. As soon as my first building painted, I have to create some trees around. City never constructed just only with buildings, you know, it's always some small parks, some trees around buildings, and city on painting looking not alive if you only painting there just a buildings, just a houses. So remember, we have to mix green parts and the buildings together. For roofs, I'm using flat slanted brush, and it's, you know, just a perfect shape to create roofs. One stroke and it's done. Don't mix colors too much. Let some colors to be mixed on your paper. Roofs are done, and with my flat brush I mixed some color for walls. It's white, it's yellow, a little bit of red sometimes. I want to create a really different colors for different buildings. So each time when I'm moving to the next building, I'm mixing a little bit different shade, and it's giving a very nice mosaical view for city. We don't need to create sketches for this kind of cities, because our brushes will do all work. We just painting with the vertical strokes. That's it. That's all we have to do. I'm mixing again. It's important to paint trees as well. So between buildings I want to create some green trees. It's a dark green plus for shadow parts it's plus cobalt blue. Please don't use any black here because it's giving a really unpleasant grayish color. I don't really like it. We want to create a really beautiful and colorful city. We will use black a little later, but not for greens, not for our plants. Also, you can correct some vertical lines with the greens, and also for trees I'm using small round brush. It's cause different brushes giving us different prints on a paper or on canvas, depends on what you're painting on. This painting also possible to paint with the oil paints. I already told you I'm making a little bit different shade each time I'm moving to the next building. This one is more light and yellowish. Some buildings have pointy tops. It's very easy to create. First, I'm making two prints on a paper with a sharp end of my brush, and then I'm filling the building with a color. Now this building gonna be more orange. I added a bit more red, and also look, I'm not crossing the line of coast. Remember, we saved about 5 centimeters for sea. We're going to paint also reflection of our city. And again, we have to add more trees, because if we only have buildings, it's looking not natural. Also, if you want to create just the same city as I'm painting now, I will make a sketch later, and all sketches for my tutorials you can find in a Facebook group. So welcome, you can print it, transfer it on a paper or canvas, and paint with sketch also. Next building, let's create with more red on it. In general, right part of my city on the right side will be lighter, and on the left side of my painting will be a little bit more dark. But when I'm saying dark, it doesn't mean I'm adding there any black. Darker means I'm using more red and umber in a color mix for walls. This kind of cities you can find at the Mediterranean Sea area, and once I visited those area, I've been traveling there on Rhodes island, and close there on the next island there was just the same looking small city, and in my view they looking so pretty, those small cities on islands, more looking as a fantasy city, but it's very real. I saw it once. Most of buildings already created. All I have to do now is correct some shapes with trees, green trees, and for shadow parts I'm using cobalt blue, not adds there any black, and for correction I'm using a small brush. And now we're moving to the next step. With a slanted flat brush, I have to create some roofs. I choose metallic red as a main color for roofs. Sometimes some islands have different colors. As you know, for example, Santorini, I only saw it on the photos, but as I know, they have only blue roofs and white walls for all buildings on island. Can be really beautiful. Never saw it in real life though. Just don't miss any building. It doesn't matter how accurate you are at the moment. Just remember to create red roofs for each building. Doesn't matter if it's triangled or just flat. Shapes can be different. It's very natural and interesting looking, and it seems like lots of thousands details you creating on your painting. It is so, yes, it's true, because look, for each wall we mixed different shades. For each building we created the roof, right? For roof, for these far buildings I added a little bit of umber, because roofs there can be a bit darker, right, than on a middle ground. Also, I want to add a bit more red, not a metallic red, just a clear red, just for small details. And now it's time for black. I have to mix it a bit with the red. I just don't want to use clear red, it can be too contrasting, and I'm creating a tiny shadows under each roof. Again, don't miss any. Brush I'm working at the moment, it's number 1. It's not smallest one that we need for this painting, but it's small enough. It's giving good control to your hands, and it helps to create a kind of accurate lines. Also here I want to paint a small fence, and with the next step we're going to create lots of windows. For windows I recommend you to use two kind of brushes. It's a flat and flat with a round shape. It can give us a different type of windows. This is a normal one I'm painting now, and this one, look, another type of brush, round-shaped. Just paint it vertically and then correct the shape of window, and that's it. See, now it's looking more as arch window. The colors I'm using, it's a mix of black and cobalt blue, and that's it. Somewhere on some windows you can mix a bit of white, but don't add too much of white, because windows, it's details with a high contrast on our city, and it's giving, look, now city looking really detailed. It's just a question of proper steps. Walls, roofs, windows. After all windows are created, you have to be patient, and with a brush number 0 mix white, lots of white, and cobalt blue. The shade have to be very light, and for each window we are creating a frame. It's a lot of work. It's not a hard step. It's just a time needs for it. So be patient. Make a breaks if you need it. As for me, I did 15 minutes break between window step and the window frames step. Just, for small rest, for cup of coffee. And only after my coffee I moved to this frame step. Don't miss any windows again. Windows frames are done, and at the moment it's time to check if we have to change something or correct something in our city, because it's done actually. As for me, I don't really like this light, in my opinion, area between two houses, so I corrected it. And I have to do it with a small brush now, with a really number 0 one, because area here already have roofs and windows, and I don't want to touch these details anymore. So with your changes, please be accurate. If you correction something, do it with a very small brush. Also, it's possible to correct some vertical lines for walls also. And we're moving on the last step, and this is a reflection in the water. Usually this kind of small cities on islands have no special bank or something, no any stone bank. It's usually some grass there or sand also. So I created a very thin line of sand and some green line. Let's say it's a bit of grass there. And after I'm moving to reflection. All we have to know about it, the main move for our hand, it's horizontal now. Before, our strokes was only vertical, and now it's have to be only horizontal. For sand and grass on bank, some strokes can be very long but thin. It's important because it's not water yet. And after this small thin line, we painting the really short horizontal strokes. The brush I'm using, it's the same brush as I used for wall. I really love this shape of brush. In my opinion, it's so, all-purpose, very, very handy in different styles of paintings. And colors. All we have to use, we have on a palette at the moment. It's all colors we painted our city. And all colors gonna be reflected in the sea, of course. So here greens for trees, and here some orange, ochre, yellow, red for houses reflections. And the most important, it's just the shape of strokes you're painting with. It's a short and horizontal. Short, let's say not longer than 3-5 centimeters. It can be shorter but not longer. Colors can mix together just on your paper, and it's a first layer for water, let's say basical. Here also the color for roofs we used, it's Mother Lake Red. I can mix colors a little bit together with my brush. Paints are still wet a little bit, so it's blending nicely. Also, I add a bit of white because walls are much lighter than I have colors now on my paper. But I don't care actually about exact reflections of buildings at the moment. At first I have to cover paper really well, not leave any empty areas between my strokes. It can be tricky because I'm painting with the tip of my brush and it's very thin, so be accurate. Also, I will add a bit of blue, not everywhere, just on left and right somewhere, because on sky here I have a really dark blue, so I want to repeat it on my reflections. And again, look, I have to cover all empty areas here. Doesn't matter with white, with blue, with red, just have to paint everywhere to cover all paper, not leave any empty areas and places. Now I changed my brush. Now it's a small sized flat brush, and with this shape I can be more accurate, it's better control, and I can create a reflection of small details. It's a reflection of some windows. It's dark blue we used for it, so the same color I'm using for reflection. And also look, these tiny vertical strokes with my brush, but only with a small one, not with a big when I was working before. Small vertical lines, and be sure your paint now not too liquid, not too watery. If you're painting with acrylic as I do, don't add there too much water. Small brush give us ability to add, those small strokes, detailing strokes. But for big areas, again, I have to use a bigger brush, of course. Here I have still empty area on my paper, so I have to cover it first, and after first layer will be done, I can create smaller details on my reflection. The center of attention in this composition, it's a center of painting with 2 or 3 light buildings on middle ground, and here I'm working on reflection better. Look, now I'm checking and creating some details, some exact reflection. And now here some strokes can be straight, long and vertical, because the most, let's say the most area of water already created with a wavy effect, and this wavy effect giving us thin end of flat brush. I'm checking where I have a building, right, and creating reflection with a short horizontal lines. And a bit of reflection of green. Make 1 or 2 steps and look if you have to correct something. The most accurate reflection we have to create in the center of our composition, and on the right and left side it's just, reflection in general. I don't want to paint it really detailed. Just a small correction of color, maybe, to add some white, because building there really light. And that's it. Now I have to sign my work. If you wanted to share with me your paintings, welcome on my Facebook group. Also there you can find a sketch for this painting. If you want to use it, you're most welcome. That was a PaintyKat, and good luck. Bye bye.